thank you for the introduction. My whole family wasn't golf course architects. But, I was raised in the game of golf, as is my dad, and much of my family were raised in the game of golf. Briefly, my family owned Grand Haven Golf Club down in Grand Haven, which I was raised in. All my granddad's grandkids got an opportunity to work on the golf course. Some of us weren't smart enough to get out of the business, so here I am. But Manistee Golf and Country Club was my granddad's first design in Michigan. And really where it got to start, and it was really interesting because I tied a lot of things together with this centennial book. It's really a neat book. Your golf course got its start at Glenarvan Country Club in Thomasville, Georgia. It was a popular winter resort north of Tallahassee. Late 1800s, the northern industrialists would spend their winter vacations down there. And it was a great outdoor place where they had sporting clays, they had hunting, they had a lot of outdoor sports which were popular at that time. And they also had a new golf course that was designed by Willie Stark of St. Andrews, Scotland, and he laid out 9 holes at Glenarvan Country Club. That's typical of what golf courses looked like in the 1890s, and very similar to what Manistee looked like. Most of them were done with sand greens. It was before irrigation, and you had the fescue grass. You didn't have a lot of mowers and everything, so it was just play on some grass and some sand greens, and that's what your forefathers of the club said, this is exciting, let's have it in Manistee. Over the years, and it's still a great private club and a great resort, Glenarvan had a lot of famous people play there. Sam Snead, Saracen, Hogan, Nelson, Lloyd Mangrum, President Eisenhower. And one of the most influential people in golf was a member there. And how many people have heard of Colburn Haskell?
My uncle. You're kidding me.
No.
You're kidding me. That's my uncle.
Well, there you go. Colburn Haskell invented the wound rubber ball. Walter Travis won the U.S. Amateur with it in 1901, and we played with that wound rubber ball for 100 years. It's that same ball that we played with in the 90s before that solid ball came in. It was invented in 1901. He was a member at this club. So they bought the industrials and your forefathers out of the White Book. Ed Buckley, Frank Canfield, Robert Babcock thought it'd be good for golf in Manistee. That's easy to find. The railway station, which is the funeral home there now. That's the old railroad station. They contacted H.E. Spalding Company, who happened to have a golf course on staff, Tom Bendelow of New York City. He came out in 1901 and laid out 9 holes, which was the 10th course that he did, and he was a 29-year-old designer when he came. Let's see here. Wrong way.
This could be trouble.
There we go. There we go. So your original architect, 1901, is Tom Bendelow. He's from Scotland. He was a competitive golfer from the age of 5 on. He became acquainted with other Scot golfers, Willie Dunn, Duncan, Alexander Finley, and they all came to the United States and designed golf courses because golf was in a big demand. You had the industrials all of a sudden had free time, they had a lot of money, and they were really interested in the game. So where do you go get the people that know the game? Scotland. They all came over. His first design was a 6-hole course for the Pratt family, the founders of Standard Oil in New York. They placed an ad in the newspaper. He answered the ad, and he taught them how to play golf, built them a 6-hole golf course. and he was on his way. 1895, he went to work for Spalding Sporting Goods, and he sold golf balls and golf clubs and offered instruction and did the rudimentary designs. He and Spalding, before that he designed and built and ran the first public course in the United States, which was Van Cortlandt Park in New York City. At that point, he introduced tee times. So the tee times were an old thing. The very first public course needed tee times. He and Spalding met up, and Spalding had a desire to sell golf clubs and golf balls. Bendelow had a desire to design golf courses. They teamed up and went around the country, and Spalding advertised for them, and away they went. They formed a partnership. The forefathers up here got a hold of Spalding, and then next thing you know, Tom Bendelow is here. And what's interesting is the ultimate goal of Spalding was to sell clubs and golf balls, and in your little white book it says Leon Walder's local hardware store is selling golf equipment. So Spalding did good. He got a golf course here, and he's selling equipment. So that's just how early golf was happening. Okay. He was known as the Johnny Appleseed of golf. He had a nickname, with the nickname of Johnny Appleseed of golf. He laid 18 stakes on a Sunday afternoon. He would spend a day, and he spent a day here, laid out his golf course at Manistee, and then got on a train and headed to Menominee to lay out another golf course. When the 18 stakes on a Sunday afternoon, he was a very religious man, and he never worked on a Sunday afternoon, so it's fun how stories get started. Most of his designs, he designed 650 golf courses, but most of his early work isn't around. It was just 18 stakes, go one spot, go to the next spot. And you end up with what he had out here at the country club. His later work after World War I, he did some really neat golf courses. Some of his more famous golf courses were Olympia Fields and Medina in Chicago. Last week he had East Lake Country Club in Atlanta on TV. He did that one. Then Allegheny Country Club in Pittsburgh, and Dallas Country Club in Texas, and Rosedale Golf Club in Royal Ottawa of Canada. So he did a lot of nice courses after basically World War I. He lectured at Illinois, and closed out his career with the American Park Builders in Chicago. When he ended his career, the Depression really sunk golf, and Manistee was just getting started in 1929. But Bendelow, when the Depression hit, he worked as a bill collector for his son in Chicago, and retired shortly thereafter. Michigan golf courses, he did a ton of them. So what did your golf course look like? It's interesting. Your little white book has a sketch of this plan. So Mike and I went out a week and a half ago or so, and we looked at it, and we find it, and we did. And most of those golf holes are out there. You've got very small tees and greens. There was little soil movement. You had the 9th hole that played across the railroad tracks. This is the Manistee Grand Rapids Railroad right here. And there's the 9th hole. And the original golf course had sand greens. But I'll go through it real quick to show you, because it's really quite interesting. And you can look at it as you play golf. 8th Street came all the way down here to 14 Green area. And there was the original clubhouse down by the ravine. And then it played number 1, played off of 14T, and then the green is located in 8 Rough, right there by the intersection of 8th Street. Number 2T is right there at this island on Cherry Street in the Rough, and the green is the front of number 17 Green. My granddad used that fill on that green, and there's a saddle between those bunkers that are a little bit higher in that green. That green sat up on a plateau, and my granddad just pushed that plateau back and built that green out of the old green. So that's 2. Number 3, the T is in the spruce trees between 17 and 18, and the green is by the ash tree on 8 Rock. Number 4, the T is right on the cart path, right off the cart path here, short right of the 8 Rock. And the green, we couldn't find that because the oil well and the work on this area here just disrupted everything, but the green is somewhere right there around your oil well. So is number 5T. 5 green is right between, it's right here west of the forward T and east of number 9T, right there, and there's a little hollow in the hill there. That's the green. The 6-hole that he designed is your 9th hole. The 7th hole is your 10T, and it went to the cart path on just short of the cart path on 16, and at 16 green. The 8th hole of the T is over here in the rock, about 50 yards south of 16 green. And then in the spruce trees on 15, you'll see some little minor depressions and little hummocks there. That's the 8th green. And the 9th green is in 15 rough on the inside of the dog leg. There's a little level spot in the trees there. And the green, we don't know where it was because, again, this has all been reworked between the clubhouse and the green there. It's somewhere either on 14 green or 15T. So that one's sort of neat because when the train came by, you just had to wait to. But neat golf course. Neat golf course. Short, very short. And you can see, all he did was spend an afternoon. I'll put a stake here, let's go on here, let's go over here, go down here. So you can see just how he worked on golf courses back at that time. So, go back to Glenarvan Country Club. In 1929, Bruce Matthews, my granddad, I'm third, was the project architect for John Van Cleek, who was doing a new 18. They had the original Sand 9, much like your Sand 9. In 1929, Glenarvan was doing a new 18. My granddad was the project architect for Stiles and Van Cleek. The winter professional, which is typical of that era, you had the pros would spend their winters down south and their summers up north. The winter professional down at Glenarvan Country Club was Lee Cruz. He was the summer professional, and that's what was interesting for me. And here, he was the summer professional in 1929 and 1931. That's how my granddad got up here. He knew the pro that was here. So, in 1929, the board of the country club contacted Wayne Stiles, which was Van Cleek's partner, and the club balked at the costs that were quoted by Stiles for an 18-hole golf course. Well, my granddad, the golf courses were slowing down, development was slowing down. They didn't know it was going to be the Depression, but it was coming on. But my granddad quickly seized the opportunity to come home and have a job. So this ended up being at 25 years old. He designed your 18-hole golf course. So, who is he? Who's your architect? He grew up on a farm in Hastings, in Van Haven. He graduated from Michigan State in 1925 in landscape architecture. When he was working for Stiles and Van Cleek, it's interesting that it was a very small golf world back then. He worked with Walter Hagen, and Walter Hagen was a lifelong friend of his. Joe Kirkwood was also a famous pro back then. He was a trick shot artist out of Georgia, and he worked with him. The pros did a lot of consulting on golf courses. You were pro, designer, and a lot of times superintendent. They all wore 3 hats at a time because of such a young business. Okay, came back and did the golf course. Let's go to the next slide here. Oops, right there. Okay. So, 1929, he designed this golf course, and then the bottom fell out of everything with the Depression.
Yeah.
He went to work for Masonic Country Club in Grand Rapids, and it started as a bill collector, collecting dues that members owed, which was interesting, because at the same time, Bendelow was working for his son as a bill collector in Chicago. So, again, there's a lot of, you got Glenarvan, you got bill collector, there's a lot of things happening that have Manistee Golf and Country Club in common here. But he spent 30 years as a general manager at Masonic Country Club. In the meantime, he really liked turfgrass research, and he had friends with one of the leading soil scientists, was O.J. Knorr out of Milwaukee. And one of his friends was Tom Mascaro, who was an inventor of various golf course equipment. In fact, he was the inventor of the dreaded air fire. So everybody doesn't like those holes poked. There's the guy to blame, Tom Mascaro. Later in his career, he was regional vice president of club managers, and then he was elected to the board of directors of the golf course superintendents in 1946. In 1955 and 56, he worked with Michigan State and developed the Michigan Turf Foundation, was the first president. In 1958, he went to devoted full-time to golf course architecture and designed Forest Acres at Michigan State. Is the first one that he did. There he worked with some Biggie Munn and John Hanna. Those are some names around that are older names at Michigan State that were gentlemen that he worked with at the time. In 1991, he got the Distinguished Service Award from the Golf Course Superintendents Association. 1993, he was inducted to the Michigan Hall of Fame. And then when he died at 2000, he had a scholarship was funded in his name at Michigan State University. So, what did he do, and how was that? Well, his designs were influenced by his farming background and his 30 years of golf course operations. He spent a lot of time in the field. His routings followed the natural contours, were very efficient to build. Tees and greens were mostly placed on high spaces and higher elevations of the property. His first greens at Tarpon Springs Country Club in 1925 are the same as my greens now. Just a little bit of variation is they're undulating greens with contours flowing from higher mounds outside the green and then flowing down into the green. Earlier in his career, when there wasn't a lot of equipment, and he was working with a mule and pole scraper, the greens were smaller, and then as the bulldozers got bigger, so did the greens and tees get bigger. So he had hazards between the landing areas, but he always left an alternate route for a weaker hitter. He never designed a forced carry and never designed a fairway bunker. Your bunkers on 6 and 7 that are cross bunkers in front of the greens on 6 and 7, those aren't his. He didn't do that. Who did that? They weren't there in 1930, I do know that. But his mentor, Wayne Stiles, when he first started, had a design philosophy of designing for the masses. My granddad designed for the 18 handicapper because they're the profit for the golf course. They're the majority of the golfers, and he designed for the 18 handicapper. That's much of what I do today. You can have some flash, but the Matthews golf courses, we do have some flashy ones, but the other ones are just enjoyable rounds of golf for the average golfer, and they've been very successful for a lot of years. Okay, so That's my granddad right there. That's about 1988, so I had hair.
Where are you?
I'm right down here.
Your master's jacket.
Yeah, skinny and had hair. This is my dad, Wally Matthews. He ran Grand Haven Golf Club from the start, from 1965 on. Before that, he was a club manager over at Spring Meadows in Flint. This is my Uncle Jerry over here. He's golf course architect. I'm the third generation golf course architect. Here's my cousin Mark, who's been superintendent at Country Club of Lansing for over 30 years. It's really neat to have that family. And there's a ton more family that's worked on the golf courses. These are the guys that just weren't smart enough to get out of it. Back in 1968 or 1970, Golf Digest came out with their ratings. And their first rating for golf courses was the top 50 in the United States. Michigan had 2. And one was Grand Haven, which was our family's golf course, was really neat. And one was Salem Hills, and my granddad designed both of those golf courses. So that was sort of neat. Okay, so this was taken at Grand Haven. That's my dad and myself. My granddad's career started with pole scrapers. He did this with pole scrapers and mules. There was no equipment when he did this. Pole scrapers and mules. He played with hickory shafts, and ended up he's working with bulldozers, and we got electric riding mowers and graphite shafts. He saw a lot in his career. Between he and the people that work for him, there's a lot of industry professionals that got their start, and many more got their work working on a Matthews golf course. So next couple of slides, and I'm going to go through them quick, because I've never broken it down. How many did each one of us do? I got to start counting. But I really made an effort to put together a list with everybody's golf course. 95% of the work, maybe 98% of the work we've done is in Michigan, and this is in the new ones. And my granddad's in the italics, and my uncle's in the block, and I'm in the bold, because I put it together. So Grandpa's in the italics, but he's part of every one of these golf courses, because it just drops right down from generation to generation. And there's a lot of my granddad philosophy right in my work. So that's A through F. That's F through L, and these are all Michigan golf courses. He really was proud of Hastings Country Club. My granddad was from Hastings, and he designed Hastings Country Club, so he really enjoyed that. One of my uncle's prizes, and what my uncle really likes, was Grand Hotel Golf Course. My uncle was very proud of Grand Hotel. I like Hidden River. I did that one. But they're all good, every one of them. There's L through P, and there's P through S. There's S through W. So these are all new Michigan courses that my family's done, and my granddad's had a big influence on it. So when you're not alone in Manistee Country Club, we've touched a lot of Michigan. My granddad's touched a lot of Michigan. So when you look at what did he do, his 1929, 1930 golf course is essentially the same as what you've done, except 1, 2, then this third hole came up here. The fourth hole is your 6th hole. Your 5 and 6 are where your practice areas are now. 7's 7, 8's 8, 9's 9. 10 is his, 11 is his. His 12th hole goes down to the south. His 13 hole is along north-south hole coming up here. This is where the railroad tracks used to be. So this is property bought in 1958 and then worked on it afterwards. then 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18 are all the same. So that's his layout. In 2017, he had one more architect on the site, and that was Jeff Gorney. And in 1992, he rerouted holes 3 and 4 and 12 and 13. Jeff was a Jackson, Michigan native. He was the golf course superintendent at the Highlands in Grand Rapids. Jeff was in the business for about a decade, and then he did about 3 dozen new and remodeling projects. His most famous work was Little Traverse Bay, that I can tell. You don't get any better than that. That's one of the best views that you can get on a golf course anywhere in the world, and you got it. You have it. How many pictures have been taken on that tee? I got mine. We just moved here recently, and we really like it here. But we've had property here, so we've been up here a lot, and we've played this golf course quite a bit. It's been a lot of fun when we come up, my wife and I, and we've got property over in Wellston, but we'd always swing out here and play golf. So it was a lot of fun. So I think that was last year or the year before, I'm not sure. This is an excellent skyline green. At Michigan State, I use that slide to teach my students an example of skyline green with no backdrop. It's hard on the depth perception. You've got to trust your club and trust the yardage. Excellent golf hole, very pretty hole. So it's really neat. You got a great golf course here. A great golf course. Thank you very much. Master of Ceremonies.
Good, baby. Good trouble. Except for Fred. Yeah. Bruce, would you answer any questions if anybody
Sure.
has any questions of Bruce?
Comments, questions?
I'll hang around for a little bit, so if you have a drink, I'll answer exactly. You really got a great golf course here. And I'm really proud of it. It's a lot of fun doing the research on it because I knew a lot of what my granddad did. But this little book right here just sort of filled in some of the blanks on my family history. So I thank you for the book.
Thank you so much. Excellent talk. Hey, thank you.